What's up, friends? Now back here with another video for you today, and today I've got for you the PGL Krakow Day 1 predictions in the Swiss format, and then the overall group stage predictions, what teams will be eliminated, what teams will make it through the playoffs, things like that. If you remember from the last major, the E-League Atlanta major, I did sort of a similar thing with those videos, and I made them a bit longer. I sort of went more in depth with the matchups, with who I thought would win, why I thought they would win. I just don't have time for that anymore. Back during that major, I was working a different job with less hours, and I was able to come home and make a video every night. That's not going to happen for this major, so I'm going to try and broaden the videos, make them a little less intensive in terms of details, and just go from there. So day 1 prediction, since we know the matchups, and then I'll do another video once the playoffs start, probably. But so let's hop right into it here. Day 1 predictions. As you see here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games we played amongst the 16 teams that have qualified. Starting off with Gambit and Mouse Sports. So in this game, I've taken Mouse Sports over Gambit, as you got a quick peek of all the predictions there. Just so far, I think that Mouse Sports have shown that they are sort of taking that next step. They're improving as a team. We saw them in ESL 1 Cologne. They did fairly well. Obviously, they didn't make it through to the Lanxess Arena, but in terms of Gambit, we haven't seen anything from them recently. They haven't really been on any sort of stage, and that might be to their advantage. Maybe they've come up with some strategies that will be implemented during the major that will be used to beat Mouse Sports and other teams as such. But I just think Mouse Sports right now seems like a really solid team. They're really well put together. It seems like everything's starting to click for them. They're getting the players to step up. I mean, Rops is doing amazing. Lowell has been stepping as well. So those guys have been stepping up when they need to, and I think Mouse Sports looks pretty scary right now as a first round matchup for Gambit. Moving on, Fnatic versus Flipside. Flipside's been this team that has sort of been the wild card, especially in these majors. I mean, if we think back to last major, I believe they made it through. Did they make it through the playoffs? I don't think. No, they didn't. But they were a legendary team invited or something to that extent. I forget what the exact situation there. But Flipside has sort of always been this wild card. You never know what they're gonna bring. They've got these big names that were in the scene and dominating for a while, and you just never know what you're going to get with them. This could be the flip side that comes out and plays very well and progresses well throughout the tournament, or it could be the flip side that sort of flops over and doesn't do anything, where Fnatic's kind of the same thing, these big names, but you never know, who we're going to see. Are we going to see the Fnatic of old that was winning every single game, every single map, every single tournament that they entered? Excuse me. Or is it going to be Fnatic of late, where they're not that great, they're very inconsistent, and their play just doesn't sort of emanate a team that's at the top of its game. So it's just sort of, you got to pick and choose here. Personally, I'm going to be taking Fnatic over Flipside in this matchup. I just think Fnatic is going to be the better team, and they're going to come out on top, and I think their experience will show, and I think Flipside, while they could put up a fight, I just don't think that they're going to be able to take the game. The next one, Virtus.pro versus Vega Squadron. Should be looking at the team names, looking at the players, you would think, oh, this is going to be a blowout. Obviously, Virtus.pro is going to win. And while I did pick Virtus.pro to win this matchup, Virtus.pro has looked very, what's the word, shaky, very inconsistent, very not like Virtus.pro. That's not the proper way of putting it, I know, but, that's the only way you can describe it. They haven't looked like themselves, but in these big tournaments and the majors, they always seem to show up. They always seem to perform. I'm expecting no less from them in this tournament, let alone in Game 1 versus Vega Squadron, who, if we take a look at the team there, Chopper, JR, I can't even pronounce the rest of those names, Mir, Huji, and Kesh. I'm not going to bother. We're going to call him Kesh. Anyway, you're looking at those names, who do you recognize on there? You don't. That's not to say that they didn't earn their place here. Obviously, they're at the major. They, every team here earned their place, and they deserve to be here, but I don't think Virtus.pro is going to have any problem with Vega going forward. Moving on to the next game, SK versus Penta. More of the same, really. SK, arguably the top team in the world right now. I mean, if in that top echelon of teams, you've got SK, FaZe, Navi, G2, Astralis, those top 5 teams, you look at, you think, all right, who's really number 1? Arguments can be made for all 5, obviously, but SK, I think, sort of stands out as the team who, most people would look to as the #1 team, being the team that just won ESL 1 Cologne. They've won tournaments in the past, and they've just been performing pretty solid throughout. I don't think they're going to have any problem with Penta. Penta obviously performed well to get to the major. They performed well in the qualifier, but I don't think SK is going to have any trouble here in this first matchup with Penta. So I'm taking SK over Penta here in that matchup. Next, we've got FaZe versus Big. Again, Big, you don't know what you're going to get with Big. This is their first major as a team. They surprised by, qualifying, and they're here. And, you look at these names that used to be sort of in the top, top names in the scene. And then you look at FaZe, who until ESL 1 Cologne had an untarnished spree of getting to the finals of tournaments with Nico. They were 4 for 4, I believe, going into ESL 1 Cologne, which obviously they didn't get to the finals in that one, so now they're 4-1, or 4 for 5, excuse me. But I think, Big could be a team in this tournament that makes some waves, causes problems for some teams. I don't think that team is going to be FaZe that they're going to cause problems for. I think FaZe is going to be too well rehearsed. Their overall individual talents are incredible. Obviously, you're looking at all these names. Nico's the one that stands out as that individual player who's got this insane skill. But I think as a team, they've been performing well, even with all these individual players, and I think FaZe is not going to have a problem with Big coming into this first matchup. Third to last, North versus Cloud9, a matchup that I think in day one looks to be, besides for Navi and G2, looks to be the matchup to watch, right? You look at a lot of these matchups and you think, well, maybe they're going to be good games, but a lot of them look like, maybe not, with the exception of maybe Gambit and Mouse Sports. But I think North versus Cloud9 is a matchup that's really intriguing in a way that Cloud9 has been playing, really, really well as of late. They went and made it to the finals of ESL 1 Cologne, which was just this past weekend. And they've been doing very well, and they've been playing just as a solid team. And that's not something that you're accustomed to seeing from NACS, right? Back when we had iBuyPower and Complexity or Cloud9 with the addition of, not the addition, but the rendition of Cloud9 that was Hiko and Sean Gares and whoever else it was on that team. I can't even recall at this point. But since then, we haven't been used to seeing a consistent NA team to do well. Now, I'm not saying one tournament's consistency. No, that's not what I'm saying. But consistently in their past matchups, Cloud9 have been doing well. They've had their players stepping up that need to be. Everyone sees Shroud and says, okay, this guy is an onliner. He's been doing well, on his stream. That's all he cares about, his stream, yada, yada. Well, in this last tournament, he did very well. He was one of the players that was stepping up. He was winning those clutches. He was performing consistently game in and game out. I think if they can bring that to the table again, I think they can beat North. I actually have Cloud9 beating North in this first matchup. The problem with North here, I think, is, we look at them and we think, well, okay, what have they done recently? I mean, let's just, and I keep going back to ESL 1 Cologne. That's the most recent, the most recent tournament with all these big names in it. I mean, you look there, they didn't make it out of the group stages. I think they went something like, what'd they go, 2 and 3 maybe? I forget. They beat the teams like Tai Lu, and I think their other win was against Heroic maybe. I forget who it was exactly, but then they lost to Optic. I know they lost to SK. So they've been beating the teams that they should beat, but when it comes to those bigger teams, just specifically in this last tournament, they haven't been performing well. Now, that's not to say that over their lifetime, over their whole, body of work, that they haven't done well. That's not to say that at all. They have beaten the teams that they need to. And North very well could step up. It could have been that maybe they didn't want to show all their strats for the major. They were sort of maybe not taking ESL 1 Cologne lightly, but just sort of preparing, looking ahead to the major, not wanting to give everything away. That could have been the case. Who knows, right? We don't want to, make assumptions there. But I just think looking at the last tournament, looking at sort of some of the past matchups, I think Cloud9 has the advantage there, and I think going forward they will take the victory in the day one matchup. Excuse me. All right, the second to last matchup is Navi versus G2. This is I guess a quarterfinal rematch from ESL 1 Cologne. Navi and G2 went up against each other, and I believe Navi, or Did G2 win that or did Navi? No, Navi won that 2-0 at ESL1 Cologne. So Navi obviously coming off of the most recent victory in the matchup here. And I think, you know, looking at these two teams, both of these teams are composed of players that are just incredible, right? In terms of raw skill, in terms of team play, in terms of calling, these two teams are both incredibly talented at what they do, which makes this, obviously, like I said, going along with North and Cloud9, one of the two matchups of the day to watch, where I think it could be this really incredible star-studded game. And if we're just looking at this matchup here, and we'll take a look at the prediction. Oops, where is it? There it is. So I have G2 over Navi. Come on, go away. Yeah, it's not going to work. I have Navi or G2 over Navi. These are all best of ones. That's something to remember. And that does well to, you know, either team could win, obviously, in a best of one. In a best of three, it's more likely that the team that should win will win. That's not to say that between Navi and G2, there's a team that should win. And I apologize. I think my neighbor just started mowing their lawn. So if you can hear that, my apologies. But so G2, I'm taking G2 over Navi. You know, this is one of those toss-ups, right? Both of these teams are very talented. Like I said, either team could win any day of the week against each other. I think this is really just a toss-up. This is 50-50. And it's going to come down to map choice, I think. You know, both these teams have a great map pool that they can pull from. No pun intended. Both teams are very talented on all, maybe not all maps, but many of the maps that are in the competitive pool right now. So I think it's going to come down to map choice, who gets the better map pick, who performs in that day. But I'm picking G2 over Navi in this first matchup. The final matchup of the day for day one is going to be Astralis versus Immortals. I think this is going to be a matchup where Astralis is going to maybe not destroy Immortals. It might be close, but I don't think Astralis is going to have any trouble with Immortals. Immortals, the other Brazilian team that finally qualified for a major. They finally broke through that barrier where they weren't able to qualify for the longest time. Finally, they're making it to the major. They're gonna be there on the big stage. They're gonna be performing. But I think Astralis is gonna take the victory here. Like I said, one of those top 5 teams that could be made an argument as #1 for any of them. In Astralis here, and I just think that they're gonna be too powerful, too good of a team, too well practiced for Immortals to handle. And I think especially in a best of one, you know, it's not gonna, that lends itself to the upset possibility, but I don't think it's gonna happen here for Astralis and Immortals. So those were my day one predictions. We'll go back to the good old Excel spreadsheet here. So like I said, those are the day one matchups. So now going forward, the second part of this video, I want to talk about who I think is going to make it out of groups, who I think is going to be eliminated, and so we'll get right into that. And so we go over to spreadsheet number 2, teams advanced through, teams eliminated. Just taking a quick look down through here. Teams to go through are SK, Astralis, FaZe, G2, Navi, C9, VP, and Gambit. Teams that I think will be eliminated at the end of the group stages will be North, Mouse Sports, Flipside, Vega, Big, Immortals, Fnatic, and Penta. Now, if you're looking at this, the one thing that you might think is, okay, well, there's no upsets on there. You don't have any predictions going through. Usually, any predictions, any upsets going through. Usually, you know, you look at these past majors, and there's always at least like one wild card that sneaks through, you know, due to scheduling, due to you know, maybe they get, you know, a couple lucky moments that help them get through the best of ones that allow them to get through, whatever it may be. And so you might be looking at this thinking, oh, well, you just picked all the favorites to win. Not so fast, right? So we have C9 going ahead. It's been, I guess it was Liquid, the last NA team to make it through group stages. Was that at E-League Atlanta? Or when was that? I don't remember. But North American teams rarely make it out of groups and majors, and I'm talking rarely. So I think that's not necessarily an upset in and of itself. Also looking at Gambit, they've obviously improved with the addition of Zeus in late. I think that's not necessarily a given that they get through. I think Gambit's going to have to get some good map picks. They're going to have to get wins against strong teams to make it through. You know, and then you look at teams eliminated. North, I don't think they've shown us anything recently that would suggest, you know, making it through. Now, like I said, maybe they weren't showing all their strats pre-major. Maybe they didn't want everyone to know what they think. So obviously, if as you're looking at this, is going to have a lot to do with matchups. It's going to have a lot to do with map picks. It's hard in a tournament like this. It's hard to pick because you never know. Like you're taking a look at just this little thing real quick. So we have like round 1 where all these teams go through. Well, then you've got all these 1-0 teams, all these 0-1 teams that play each other. So it just really branches off. So picking teams that go through, picking teams that get eliminated, it's very dicey because you have to sort of take into account all the things that could happen, because all these possibilities, all these matchup possibilities, that's all got to be taken into account. So like I said, this is just a very brief, prediction of who's going to go through, who's not. These are my takes. Obviously, when the playoffs actually come around and we see who's actually going to end up being eliminated and who's going to advance through, we'll get, that'll be the 100% picture. But just right now, pre any games, pre everything for the major, these are the teams that I'm picking to go through, and these are the teams that I'm picking to be eliminated. So anyway, that was this I tried to make it brief. I don't know that I actually succeeded in that, but those are my predictions for day 1 and my predictions for the group stages. Like I said, don't have time to make a video every single day like I did for the last major. I've got more hours at work now and a little bit busier of a schedule, so I can't exactly do that. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more in this series. When the playoffs come around, I'll try and do a similar sort of prediction, maybe for the entire playoffs. Maybe at that point I'll be able to do more videos for the playoffs because it'll be the weekend. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this tournament, who you think's going to be the wild card, maybe who you think's going to make it out, who shouldn't, things like that. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it was informative for you, and I will see you in the next video. I'm out. Peace.